Welcome to the Workplace Wellbeing Essentials series. I'm Mari Ryan. I'm the CEO and founder of Advancing Wellness. It's my pleasure to welcome you to this expert interview where we explore topics related to employee well-being. My guest today is Rosemary Froehlich. Rosemary spent over 15 years in corporate human resources and a decade in marketing and advertising. As the person responsible for running the company's wellness program, she knew which communications got attention, which newsletters and webinars attracted subscribers and attendees, and which special reports were forwarded to senior management. Today, she uses her insider experience to write persuasive copy and content for the workplace wellness industry. Since 2005, Rosemary's used her favorite communication skill of listening as a volunteer facilitator at the Den for Grieving Kids in Greenwich, Connecticut, a support group for kids who've experienced the death of a parent or a sibling. Rosemary, welcome.
Thank you so much, Mari. It's a pleasure to be here.
Well, today we're going to talk a little bit about communications. And communications is considered a best practice in the world of worksite well-being programs. So I really wanted to dig into this a little bit because it's something I know that many people struggle with, and it's something we spend a lot of time with talking when I'm working with clients. What did you learn about effective communications when you were running an employee wellness program?
I learned a lot, and as we both know, an effective communication strategy is really important as a component of a successful wellness program. So when I was in corporate HR, I led the benefits and I implemented a wellness program where none existed. So there was a huge learning curve for the employees as well as for me. And not only did employees need to understand what the program was about, but they really needed to understand why. Why are we doing this? Why was it important to the organization? Employees had a lot of questions. It can be kind of an emotional topic. They had concerns. So it was important to have multiple channels for communication. Email, presentations, being available for one-on-one discussions, and just, giving them options as far as expressing what they needed to. And I also really learned you have to be flexible because the wellness industry, it's been evolving, it continues to evolve, and what worked for me in year one might not work in year two or going forward.
Great, important learnings. That's really good. So could you describe for our audience, what are the elements of effective communications for a well-being program?
I think there are a couple major ones. And number one is it is so important to have the C-suite and senior management buy-in. Why wellness matters to the organization needs to be communicated from the top down on a frequent and ongoing basis. And it's not just a conversation about wellness. It's a conversation about why a healthy and thriving, productive workforce is important to your organization's business strategy and goals. Also important, always in communication, you need to know your audience. And in this case, it's your employees. So talk to the employees. You need to find out what's meaningful to them, because this way you can create a program that kind of has buy-in from all parties. And when everyone takes ownership, you're creating our program, and we all have a vested interest in seeing it be successful. And thirdly, I love success stories, and I think that if you can get senior leaders or managers or employees who are willing to share a success story that they've had, whether it's a weight loss or maybe they've put a meditation practice into play in their life, if they're open and willing to communicate that to others, I think you're taking really great steps to elevate the workplace culture.
Many of the organizations with which we partner to be able to create healthier workplaces have a distributed workforce. And I'm curious from your experience, what are your thoughts on how to effectively communicate when the workforce is distributed in multiple geographic locations?
It definitely presents an additional challenge, and I don't think it's something that's going to go away anytime soon.
Mm.
So I think it's very important for both the employer and the employees to be proactive. The employer needs to go the extra mile to, again, reach out to these people, ask them, what do you need? What can we do to help make you feel more included and more engaged? And it's so easy to always default to email. I'll email the person sitting across the room from me. But as far as you want to get out of that habit a little bit, and I think make the default something like this, a Zoom call or Skype. Get some face-to-face time, even if it's virtual. I think that goes a long way to helping these employees feel more included. And it's just, I think, really utilizing multiple channels of communication, email, conference calls. If they can come into the office once a month or something like that, get an activity going, that would be ideal. But again, it's just, I think you've got to keep it in the top of your mind and not forget them. You want to remember they need to feel included so that they can be engaged in what the company's doing.
So important. You know, we often just default to email because it's such a standard business method of communication. And yet in so many industries, and we have these in many of our clients, some folks do not have access to email as part of their jobs.
Very true.
Take in a hotel, the housekeepers or the security people may not have access to computers. In hospital systems, housekeeping and grounds and parking attendants and all of, there's many different types of jobs that do not have email. So it's really an important element to remember that there are many different audiences and what the right channel is to communicate with them.
That's so true. Yep, I agree.
Good. So what would you say are some of the common mistakes that you see in wellness program communications?
There's a couple major ones, and again, it's an evolving industry, so it's a process, and you're trying and you want to get the communication out, and it's maybe not always going to be perfect, but there's three biggies that I'll mention that I think you really want to avoid. And the first one is not being authentic. So if your message lacks authenticity, if your organization wants you to respond to emails very quickly 24/7, or you're expected to be at your desk the entire day, eat lunch at your desk the entire day, it's going to be difficult to persuade employees that you're really walking the talk of a workplace wellness environment. And I think when employees don't trust your motives, they will either resent the message or you just won't get any meaningful participation. So authenticity is a big one. Secondly, also big is using a one-size-fits-all strategy. What might work for you may not necessarily work for me. And if an employee feels that the message just doesn't resonate with them, or they say, oh, this isn't for me, again, you're not going to get the engagement. So I think anytime there's an opportunity to have avenues for maybe individual coaching or you just one-on-one discussion, you're going to that's such a success driver, so that you're getting everybody engaged and people don't say, oh, this isn't for me, I'm checking out. And then lastly, which I've kind of spoken about throughout our conversation, is assuming that you know what employees want.
Right.
I think if for many reasons, get face to face with the employees or reach out to them, get their input. What's meaningful to you? And let's build our program, encourage ongoing feedback. Because I think when you get the buy-in and people have a vested interest in this program, you're just, you're on the road to a really successful program and just having really good employee engagement, which I think is what we all want.
Wow, all really key points. So I love it. It's just so consistent with the way that we work with our clients and with the best practices and just the important elements. So clearly your program must have been very successful because you've incorporated so many of these key elements into it. So if our audience wants to learn a little bit more about your work, where can they learn more about you and find you?
So my company is Rosemary Blair Copywriting, and that is www.rblaircopy.com. Or they can email me at rosemary@rblaircopy.com.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much. This has been a delightful conversation. You've brought out some really essential points about the importance of communication and some effective ways in order to carry that out in well-being programs. So, Rosemary, thanks so much for being here today.
Oh, thank you so much, Mari. It was a pleasure. I enjoyed it, and look forward to continuing to talk about these important topics.
Thanks so much, Rosemary.
Thank you.